Alright everybody, it's time. Finally got the diesel injection pump back from Blue Ridge Diesel in Salem, Virginia. They told me it'd take about 5 to 6 weeks for them to overhaul this injection pump for the John Deere 300, and they delivered a little bit earlier actually. I think it's been about 4.5 weeks. So they called me the other day. They said, hey, your pump's ready. We're ready for you to pay us, and then we'll ship it out to you. In fact, that was on Thursday. They shipped it Thursday afternoon, and it arrived on Friday. Today's Saturday. So I have not taken it out of the box yet. I did open it to peek. I couldn't wait. I had to see it. So just for transparency, I asked them what was wrong with the pump. And the biggest thing was just heavy contamination. So we knew that the tank had a bunch of crud and junk at the bottom of it. We knew that the sediment bowl and the filter had a bunch of crud and junk. So just that stuff over time going through, bypassing through the filter, I guess, through the injection pump and into the injectors, just really kind of clogged the whole system up. So we should be good. The tank has been completely emptied and flushed. In that process, I did end up with a few little pinholes at the bottom of the tank. So those were patched and sealed. Tank's been flushed and cleaned, like I said, lines blown out. We've got the new lift pump, we've got the new fuel filter, and the new injectors. So hopefully once we get this injection pump in, we'll be good to go. So yeah, that was the biggest thing. Overhauled pump and tested to spec. Heavy contamination was found. Please be sure to change all fuel filters and clean tank. Fail to do so, avoid any warranty. So we're a step ahead. We've done all that. The pilot tube, which is the little brass tube in the front where the shaft goes into the injection pump from the engine, was worn. A whole new gasket kit. Said the transfer pump blade was bad, and the regulating piston was bad. So lots of things. So at the end of the day, me sending them the injection pump, I think I paid like, I can't remember, 50 or 60 bucks to send it out there. Maybe a little bit more even, because I put $2,000 of insurance on it. I wanted to make sure that if it got lost in the mail, that I would be able to at least buy another rebuild pump. So for them, the cost of rebuilding the pump was parts $250.50, and other charges, so labor and environmental charges, whatnot, was $637.73. So taxes, shipping, and whatnot, it came to $902.69. So that was the cost to rebuild this pump. So this place, Blue Ridge Diesel Injection, like I said, Salem, Virginia, supposed to be a really good company. I hear nothing but good things about them. These are some of the tools that we'll go over here in a little bit, but they were things that I purchased elsewhere. So here is the injection pump. Look at that. It's like brand new. So still has the same tag I sent it to them on. They got some important notices on here, basically making sure the pump is timed, filters are cleaned, checking interfaces, whatnot. So follow these instructions. And then included on this little wiring system are the 2 umbrella seals and the O-rings for our injectors. Let's see, I see one. There should be 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There might be one stuck in between these umbrella seals that I'm missing, but if not, I definitely need to get a new one of those put in there. So yeah, they did a really good job. Looks like they put a new nameplate. They restamped the serial numbers and everything on there. The old pump, if you remember, had a bunch of wire seals. So it's basically like to tamper-proof so that people wouldn't mess with the pumps. They don't do those anymore. Now they use this, it's like a lacquer type paint that gets put on there so that in the event there's a problem with it, I send it back. They can see if I've tampered with it or changed any of the settings or anything. Oh, here we go. So they already got the crush rings already on the bolts, which is awesome. So basically, they sent me some extra ones, which is cool. So, sweet. I am super impressed already. I mean, just the fit and finish of this, they did an amazing job. New O-ring here. This is that that bushing that I was telling you about, brass or bronze, gets worn out pretty easy. So yeah, when I talked to the guy on the phone, he was kind of amused that it actually came off a running tractor with the amount of contaminants that were in here and worn components, they didn't really think that that would have come off a running tractor. So this should make all the difference in the world, and I'm really looking forward to getting this installed. So that being said, we'll head out there. I did take off a few hydraulic lines. I'm just gonna bend down here real quick. This tractor had 3 hydraulic lines going from the pump to the power steering and then back to the filter assembly. So I had those made, so I'm gonna put those on real quick before we get to the injection pump. But again, same thing, the hose company I go to, this is my tag. I know it's hose number 2. They labeled theirs as number 2 also, and number 30 because I had these hoses built with my skid steer hoses. So I had a whole bunch of hoses done. But what they do is they zip tie the new hose to the old hose. It makes it real easy. I can check the fittings to make sure they're the same. The length is the same, and we don't get them confused. So again, there was 3 of these for the John Deere 300. Let's see, the John Deere 70 skid steer, I think there was 23 hoses that had fittings like this, and then there were 4 more hoses that were just rubber hoses that I had replaced. So I'll actually take you over there real quick and show you those. That'll be for another video when we install them, but yeah, here is my bucket of hoses. So same thing, all the new ones are zip tied to the old ones. They're all tagged so I remember where they go, and of course I took photos of all the lines when I took them off. So wow, what a crazy mess, right? So for the, let's see, so 23 hoses for the skid steer, 3 for the John Deere 300 gets us to 26, and then the 4 rubber hoses without any fittings on there at all gets us to 30 hoses. And the cost to have all of those hoses custom built to spec of what I had was $15.51, I think. So it's not cheap by any means. You know, and these are the things that I try to tell people when they buy these things. Either A, you're going to have to deal with this expense on your own. So if you buy a used skid steer, for an example, you know, you may have to replace these hoses. Most people will just replace 1 or 2 at a time as they see ones that are either bad or that blow out. I don't want to have to take this apart again and redo it, so yeah, they all got replaced. I don't want to turn this into the skid steer video. That's for another one. But anyway, yeah, it's a little over $1,500 for all those hoses, so it's not cheap. But it's good insurance for me, knowing that I don't have to replace them again down the line. They're all brand new. All right, well, here we are back again. It's been a while. I'm going to remove these nuts and washers from these studs just so that they're out of the way. And we'll go ahead and remove these 2 umbrella seals. These are the old ones. You don't want to scratch the shaft or anything, so we'll just go ahead and grab them, yank them off. Those are trash. Now, if you haven't watched my other video, it was the injection pump removal, and it talked about these umbrella seals. So basically they're cups, and this inside one is cupped to the engine, and it prevents engine oil from heading this direction, and this outer umbrella seal is cupped towards the injection pump, and that keeps the diesel fuel from going down the shaft and mixing with the engine oil. So I'm just going to get a lint-free rag. I'm going to wipe this shaft down real good and get some lubrication on there, and then we'll start getting the new umbrella seals installed. Alright, so I've got the shaft lubricated. I cleaned it up with a lint-free rag. I loosened up all my injector lines just to give me some more room and flexibility as far as getting the pump in here, and managed to slice my hand open on the exhaust at the same time. So, alright, the next step for getting these umbrella seals installed is to use this tool. This tool is by Stanadyne. That's the company that used to make this injection pump. It's a drive shaft tool. It looks like it's part number 13369. I got this from John Diesel. And basically what this is a, well, it's a seal insertion tool. So we're going to put some lubrication on this tool, and we'll slide the umbrella seal from this, over this tapered edge, and it'll slide down down the shaft of this tool. And this tool will slide over the shaft for driving the injection pump, and it'll allow us to drop the seal into these two grooves. So the first cup seal or umbrella seal is going to be facing the crankcase, like we said, so that should be pretty easy to put on and install. The other one's the one that's a little more tricky. It's facing towards the injection pump. A little bit trickier putting it on this tool from what I've seen, but really once we insert the injection pump onto the shaft, we have to really make sure that we don't roll the lips of that seal backwards. So I'll put some lubrication on here and we'll get the seal started. Alright, and as you can see, I'm not wearing any gloves this time. I know I usually like to try to keep things clean, but I don't want any lint or dirt or anything on here. So here's that cup seal. Let me see if we can see that in the field of view here. Sorry, the sun's behind me and it's really hard to see with the camera. So here's one of the lip seals. You can see the cup is on this right hand side, so we're going to install it cup towards the crankcase. So get some lubrication on that seal. We'll insert it over the tool and we'll just slide it all the way down to the end so it'll drop off into this first groove. So we'll slide this over the shaft, go past the first groove and get to the second groove. We'll carefully slide that in. Boom, perfect. Just want to make sure it's in there good. It's not bent or twisted or anything like that. So that one's all set. Now the second seal is going to go the opposite direction. So again, we'll get some more lubrication on there. Now it's facing towards the injection pump. So it's going to be a little bit different feel getting it on from this side. There we go, not too bad. And again, you want to make sure you don't roll this. You slide it straight down. Get this back over the shaft and we'll get it to the groove that it's supposed to be on, which is right there. This one, in my opinion, is the more critical one. So we'll get it to drop. Boom, right there. And same thing, just kind of spin it a little bit just to make sure it's there, lubricated, and good to go. Nothing rolled, nothing flipped. So we're done with that tool, that $40 tool that I bought that I actually, hopefully, I'll never have to use again. So let me get you a close-up shot here. So here's the two seals on the shaft. Again, the open cup end on the left seal is to the crankcase, and the open cup end on the right seal is on the injection pump side. The next tool we're going to use, again, is from Stanadyne. It's also called the drive shaft tool, 13371. And basically, again, this will be a hopefully a one-time use for me, but looks like a big set of tweezers almost with a circle on one end. If you look at this from the side profile, you can see that there's a little dimple on this side here. That's the side that's going to go towards the injection pump. And you can see, hopefully on the edge here, there's a bit of a bevel or a taper there. So basically what this tool is going to do is we're going to put it over this first seal, and sorry for the shaking, we're going to squeeze it like we would a pair of tweezers. And as we insert the injection pump over the shaft, it's going to help tuck these umbrella seals, the outer loose ones, inside the pilot bushing for the injection pump. So put a little more lubrication on here. I'm going to lubricate that brass or bronze bushing on the fuel injection pump, and we'll get it set up and start to slide it on, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to leave this on here for now, so I won't have to mess with it while I get the injection pump in my hand. Try to keep the camera there if I can, because I think that's a pretty good view. I'm going to put some of this lube inside the injection pump pilot bushing. I know it's not on camera, but trust me, that's what we're doing. Get a little more lube on there. At the end of the day, I'd rather have more than not enough. And then remember, on this keyway, I have the dot at the top, which is basically, if I'm looking this direction towards the injection pump, would be at like the 1 o'clock position. And then down inside this bushing for the injection pump, it is also at that 1 o'clock position. So you want to make sure those, not only this key lines up, but the little dimple with the dot on the other side. So I'm also going to put, not only did I put some lubrication in here, but I want to get some on this O-ring on the outside here. So let me get a little more on there. Dry rubber on metal components is never a good thing. Sorry, I know I usually try to put all this stuff on camera, but all right. Here we go. We've got the injection pump. I'm going to try to tuck it in here through all these injection lines. Get it wedged in here. Slide back a little bit more. All right, there we go. So we're going to start to slide the injection pump onto the shaft. I'm still dealing with these lines back here. And get it about to where the seal is. And I'll hold it right there. I want to move. All right, those are free. Make sure none of these injection lines are going to hang me up here. All right, so again, I'm going to take this tool, open it up a bit here and get to this inside seal and apply some pressure on there. Let's see, I might have to do this one from the top. Oops, sorry about that. Let's try going from the top with it. I'm going to squeeze that, and we're going to carefully start to get this pump over that seal. All right, I'm going to move this tool for a minute. Spin it down here to the bottom. Wow, this camera's really shaking around quite a bit here. All right, take this tool out and we'll take a peek. You have to be kind of careful here. I'm going to slide it back and see that that seal is in fact tucked inside there. You can slide it around back and forth and see that it isn't, the lip isn't flipped over. So I'm pretty happy with that. Again, it looks like everything's good. And we'll slide this onto the next one. There we go. All right, now at this point, I'm going to try to line up my bolt holes. And as we're putting it in, I got lines catching back here again. That shaft has to go into the keyway. So we'll have to get those kind of lined up. And then we'll also have this O-ring here for the flange that we're going to have to kind of get past. All right, there we go. Boom. Man, that slid in super easy. Wow, that's awesome. All right, so the shaft keyway is lined up. The seals look good, and the O-ring is pressed in. The flange is flat with the case. I'm going to grab one of these nuts here. And if I remember right, when I took this apart, I had to have this pulled back a little bit. Of course, I'm dropping everything in order to get these nuts on here. So I might have to slightly pull the shaft back or the pump back a little to get these nuts started, which is fine. All right, there's the top one. And the bottom one didn't have a lock washer on there. I should probably put one on, but I think we'll be all right. Try not to hit the camera too much here. All right, so I'll get these threaded in. Again, I'll push the pump back, flat against the flange. Get these snugged up, just hand tight for right now. That went super easy. Hopefully that means it's still okay. All right, so this was the inspection window. If you remember, when we took the pump apart, find my screwdriver here, and I already took this bottom one out, this bottom screw, and loosened the top one. Kind of turn this window back to the front. Tighten this one up here. I guess you could just take the whole thing off if you wanted to, but I think we'll be able to see it fine in here. So we want to look in and see if we can find our timing marks. Now remember, the pin that goes into the flywheel, I haven't turned this engine over, I haven't moved the transmission. It's been sitting just like this for the last couple months, so nothing's changed. I'm not sure if we'll get this on the camera, but I want to try to get these timing marks lined up, which they honestly look like they're right there. So let me get a light so you can see this better. So there we are, looking inside the timing window, and you can see that the timing mark on this right hand side is in the middle, and the one to the left, which is this kind of scratch with the black, I assure you that's the line, is lined up pretty well with it. So I do want to read something here in the book, and I'll turn it around so that you can see me, make it a little more interesting instead of staring at the timing mark. So using drive shaft compression tool, compress seal in the shaft, we did that. Install hex nuts finger tight. Rotate pump first in the direction of rotation, counterclockwise, as viewed from the flywheel end. So from the back looking forward, we're going to rotate it counterclockwise. And then in the opposite direction, and again, registering timing marks to take up backlash, tighten mount securely. So those timing marks in there, there's a governor, there's like some springs and everything. So we're gonna rotate it all the way clockwise first, and then reset the timing, rotating the pump back clockwise until those timing lines match up again. That gets rid of the backlash that's in all the gearing and everything. So let's see if I can manage to get that on camera. Wow, that was all really zoomed in, me talking. So, all right, so there's the timing lines. I'm going to take the injection pump. I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise, which is, I'm pretty sure that's what it said. Let's see, rotation counterclockwise as viewed from the flywheel. So you can see those timing lines are not lined up anymore. Well, if I get this flashlight out of the way. All right, so now I'm going to rotate it back clockwise again until those lines line up, which is right about there. So that gets rid of all the backlash out of the gearing. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these nuts, and then I think there's another part of the procedure that says you can basically roll the engine around, either crank it over or roll it by hand, and 180, or I'm sorry, 360, and get these timing lines back marked up. Back lined up again, sorry for that. So I'm going to get these tightened up. I'll roll it once, make sure we're good to go, and then we can start hooking up injection nozzle lines. There we go. So I've tightened up the flange nuts, I've rechecked the timing marks, and they're still good to go. So in the meantime, we'll just kind of close this window down for a second. I don't want to put it all the way out. I don't want to forget that I didn't tighten it, because as soon as we go to bleed the fuel system, fuel's just going to pour out of here. So right now I'm going to go through, I'm going to install my injection nozzle lines, the fuel line, and the wire for the solenoid cutoff. And then at this point, once we get the throttle linkage hooked up, we can remove this wire seal. If you remember, when we removed this, we pulled this throttle lever all the way back to the wide open throttle position. That's how we sent it to Blue Ridge Diesel, and that's how they sent it back to us. So let me get these lines hooked up and we'll get back. I do want to show you, I want to pull one of these out real quick just to show you what's here. If you remember from the other video as well, the ends of these lines are the banjo fittings, and there's two washers that go in here. One goes against the bolt head there on the left, then the banjo fitting for the fuel line, and then the second washer. You have to have both of these washers in there. Do not reuse your old ones, use new washers. They gave me 2 new washers with each of the 3 bolts, which is great, that's all I need, but they also sent an additional 5. At first I was a little worried because I saw 5 instead of 6. I didn't realize that they already had these on the bolts, so I've got a couple extra ones. These bolts will get torqued to 35 foot-pounds. Just know that if you over torque this, or if you're missing one of these washers, this bolt, because of the tolerances in that rotor in there, could actually lock up the pump. So just double check and make sure these washers are there. These ones are easy to see when you install the injection line in the back. Once you have it together, get a little inspection mirror and just go underneath so you can look up and just double check to make sure that you have those washers in there, because you don't want to try to roll this thing over and have one of these bolts damage the rotating assembly in there. So all right, let me get this hooked up and I shall return. All right, so people make mistakes. You know, I'm not trying to knock this company or anything. I've never used them before. I heard nothing but good things about this Blue Ridge Diesel. But anyway, I am hooking up these injection lines, and I went to go hook up the, I think this is the return line back to the tank, and I saw that the blue FME that was on the top here was worn through. I don't know if you can see that in the video. And honestly, it's probably just from shipping, right? Maybe it bounced in the box or something. So when I take this cap off, I could see there was a little piece of the blue FME cap that it got cut. It's a sharp little flange, right? So I'm like, all right, well, no problem. I'll get a scribe and try to get that out. And as I was kind of messing around, I'm way out of view here with the scribe, it felt like there was something else in there. So when I look from this end, let me see if I can get the light in there to show it. I don't know if that's gonna get picked up on the camera or not, but there's a big black chunk of something in there. Fortunately, this is on the discharge of the pump, right? So whatever fuel doesn't go to the injectors will return back to the tank. But I'm gonna go ahead and push this. I took this off because I didn't want to push it back down into the pump. But it looks like, look at that. What the hell is that? It's like, I don't know what that is. So there's that black piece that came out of there. It looks like it's something old rubber or something. Anyway, I'm gonna hang on to that for now because I hope there isn't any other issues. And I still got this blue piece here, which I'm gonna push back out to the top if I can. If it wants to come out, come on. So the FME that was here to protect this pump actually ended up making a problem. So there's the piece that got cut out of the top there. I hope that's it. So I'm not really too concerned about the FME part. Now you can see that line's clear now. But yeah, I don't know what this is. I'm assuming part of something that was in the pump. I don't know, but they put this on a bench test it, you know, a stand and bench test it. So I don't know. I'm glad I saw that because eventually what would end up happening is, again, fortunately it's like on the discharge side of this and it's not going to the injectors. I just spent $420 on new injectors. I'd be pissed if something went through those lines into there, you know, and here they are on their sheet talking about make sure you flush your lines and clean your system, and now I'm removing debris from them. So honestly, not too happy about that. I'll go ahead and I'll get some pictures and I'll send it to them. I know it's nothing like malicious, it's not like they meant to do it, but yeah. So they tested this on a stand, and I'm sure this line was connected to a drain tank or something, but yeah. Not good. I'm glad I saw that. So anyway, I'm going to finish putting these together, and I'll be back with you shortly. So just to clarify, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens when I start this thing. I'm not trying to bash this company or put bad juju out there about them or anything. I mean, I don't know. I've never used them before. I'm going off of recommendations of people from online. They're very busy. They have a lot of work going on, so that kind of usually tells you the tale. I get it. I'm sure it's a one-off thing. It's a mistake or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, when you spend over $900 to have something rebuilt and refurbished, you expect it to come back pristine. You know, I was really impressed with the fit of how it looked when it came back. I mean, so far everything else looked okay. I guess we'll keep our fingers crossed when we start this thing that there isn't another problem. Yeah, anyway, sorry, I know I'm going on another tangent here. Just kind of pissed off to see that shoved in there. Like, if that's there, is there anything else anywhere? I don't know. We won't borrow trouble. Let's just say, hey, that was the one problem. We'll move on, and let's stay positive about this and see how it goes. Alright, so everything's hooked up on the injection pump. I've double checked everything to make sure that I had the washers on both sides of the banjos for all three injection lines. I've got the return line hooked up, and the debris has been cleared from that path. I've hooked up the wire for the shutoff solenoid, got the throttle hooked up. I've moved it to make sure I don't have anything that's going to bind or restrict movement. The only thing I haven't hooked up yet is the fuel supply line. So as I had said, I'd gone through, let me show you the tank here. Actually, I'll come over on this side. I'd gone through and completely drained the tank. It's empty now. Cleaned out, there was a bunch of sludge at the bottom. The sending unit had an issue. At least I think it was the sending unit. So the fuel gauge wasn't working. And I took the sending unit out once the tank was empty, and we hooked it up to the gauge. And when we'd sweep the float indication for the sending unit, it wasn't registering on the gauge. So as it turned out, there's little needle contacts on there. Again, you can look at that other video and see that. And when it was leaning one way, it would pull those contacts far enough away where it wasn't touching, so it wasn't getting the signal. So we disassembled it. This is a guy I work with, Brian, and we cleaned it up and bent it to get a little more tension on that contact needle, and it seemed to work. So the sending unit, I believe, is good. The gauge did sweep when we put power to it, so it should be good as well. But when I disconnected it, I didn't pay attention to where the wires went. So I kind of briefly looked at the wiring diagram for this thing, and it's the worst John Deere wiring diagram I've ever seen. So I don't have a fuel gauge right now, so no harm, no foul there. I do have my diesel fuel that we need to fill the tank with. I know I talked about, while I had this thing apart, I was going to really just kind of clean up and paint this whole front area, but it's just been too cold to paint. So it's really not that big a deal to get the front end apart and get the tank out. So when it comes time to paint this tractor, we'll just take it apart again. So that's really about it. As you can see, I have a rag under here. I'm about to clean the sediment bowl in this filter again. It's a new filter. There is just a little bit of debris at the bottom from the last time that it was running, so we're going to clean that out. So I'll put some fuel in the tank. We're going to use the priming lever on the lift pump to bleed off from the vent of the filter vent here, fill the filter vent there. And like I said, I left the fuel supply line to the injection pump open, and basically I want to pump until I have fuel running out of here. Once I have fuel running out of here, we'll connect the supply line. All three of my injectors are cracked open about a quarter of a turn, so we'll get the battery hooked up and crank it over until we start seeing some bubbling fuel coming from all these injectors. All right, it's go time. It's pretty nerve-wracking, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of money got put into this, a lot of time, and I hope this works and I don't have any issues. So tank's filled with clean fuel, shut-off valve is open. We've primed the system, new lift pump, new filter, sediment bowl is clean, vented the filter off, got the fuel going over to the injection pump, got the supply line hooked up, kind of sprayed everything down with brake clean to make sure it was dry, wasn't any oily sheens. That way there, when it runs, I can check all these connections and fittings to see if we have any leaks. So again, all three injectors are about a quarter of an inch cracked. So I've just got to take off this battery tender and we should be in business. Hook the battery up and we'll crank it over, vent the, I've already got that unplugged. And we'll crank it over, vent the injectors off, bleed them off, make sure there's no air, and then tighten them down, and hopefully we get a good start. I'm hoping we don't have to use any starting fluid. Oh, and while I'm here, I replaced all the rubber boots for these shifters too, so water doesn't get in there. Anyway, all right, let's hook this battery up and bleed some injectors. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, here goes nothing. Like I said, everything's been hooked up, double checked. Get the battery hooked up. Make sure you're in neutral. Last thing we want is that to take off on us. So again, I've got the injectors cracked. I'm going to crank it over until I see bubbles starting to come out of the injectors, and as they come out, then I'll tighten them down, and it may start, or we may have to spray it. I'm not sure. We'll just kind of see how it goes. And then once it's running, I'll probably come back, crack the injectors again while it's running, just to make sure everything's bled out. So fingers crossed. Let's see, that's full throttle, that's no throttle. I'll give it about a third. And just crank and see what we got. Got some bubbles here. Got a couple. There we go. Getting them on all 3 cylinders already, so that's good. Nothing that's quite a good, nice, solid stream. Just give my starter a break here for a second. Vent it off some more. Alright. Give it a break again. Dripping pretty good right now, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten them. And like I said, once it gets running, I'll probably crack them again just to vent them to make sure we're good. And you'll hear it as it's idling. As I crack them, they'll start to it'll run a little funny. So, all right, those are tight. Dry this stuff down, because again, I want to be able to control any leaks that I see. I don't see anything leaking around the injection pump, so that's good. Everything looks pretty good there. Just try to get everything as dry as you can, so that we know that it's not from us venting off, that it's... Alright, there we go. I think we're pretty good there. I think we might go for it and just kind of see what happens here. And I do have some rags here on standby if I need to shove in here to my air intake in case it decides to take off. Hopefully that's not the case. I am going to do a little spritzer. Alright, let's see what we got. Got a big oily hydraulic mess over here. Let's see what we got. Man, I changed those hoses. Remember I told you I had 3 hoses? I think I forgot to tighten one of them up. That's a nice little mess there. That looks like it's leaking from this fitting right here. And I probably didn't tighten down on it. Alright, let me take care of that real quick. Always something, man, I tell you. Always something. Alright, crisis averted. Let's start this up again and see where we're at. funky, but I have to let it warm up, see how it goes. Still seems to have kind of like a surge a little bit, but it might be the timing. And just like a gasoline car with a distributor, we can loosen these nuts here and rotate the injection pump to fine tune the timing if we need to. Alright, I was gonna wait until tomorrow to come out here and mess with this thing some more, but I just can't help it. I mean, I just got it running again. Why wouldn't I want to play with it? So it's been sitting here warming up for a little bit. I moved some stuff around under my lean-to work area, and we'll take it out, go for a ride. Get some fluids turning in there, and tomorrow we'll be changing the oil and hydraulic fluid and all that. So seems to be running all right. Let's see how she performs on the street. No leaks, so that's good. Yeah, it seems to be running pretty good. Now that I've gotten it out and kind of warmed everything up. I do see a little bit of drippage here. I think it's coming from this washer at the bottom. Let's tighten that up a little bit. Other than that, it seems to be doing alright. A lot of the smoke clearing up. Not as smoky as it was. Plus, when I first started it, not only was it cold, but it was right underneath the lean-to, so the exhaust is just bouncing up off the metal roof and coming down back on top of you. So yeah, we got quite the mess out here again. Got the big red moved up here and just trying to keep room to get this thing in and out. And skid steer, been working on getting the frame cleared up. We'll get some the rest of the oil pumped out of here. Just trying to get it on an angle to get it down to the back so I can pump it out tomorrow. So yep, is what it is. But oh, old girl seems to be running pretty good. Tighten up that fuel line for that injector line. and should be good to go. So tomorrow, like I said, I'll take it out, warm it up, and get all the fluids changed in it. So all in all, pretty good. It's got awesome throttle response, no issues there. So anyway, hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.